Let me tell you a secret I learned way too late in life. Most people don't really want to be impressed. They just want to feel seen. Not watched, not complimented, truly seen. I used to think that being good socially meant being charismatic, funny, interesting, confident, all the words we associate with extroverts. So I tried. I tried to be louder, smarter, more impressive, but nothing really changed. The conversation stayed surface level. The connections faded quickly. I kept wondering, what am I doing wrong? Until one night, something happened that shifted everything. I was sitting with someone I barely knew. And for once, I didn't try to be impressive. I didn't try to say the right thing. I didn't even try to give advice. I just listened. But not the usual nodding while waiting to talk kind of listening. I really looked at them. I stayed quiet. I let silence exist. And after a few minutes, they opened up. Not just a little, like deeply, authentically, as if they had been waiting to talk to someone who was actually present. That night, I discovered something no one had ever taught me. One of the most powerful social skills isn't about what you say. It's about what you make the other person feel. And the feeling of being seen, of being understood without being judged or fixed, that's rare. That's what people remember. In this video, I'm going to share with you how I started using this ignored skill and how it changed not just how people saw me, but how they felt around me. And that changed everything. A while back, I was invited to a gathering. Nothing fancy, just a few people, some music, casual conversations. I didn't know many of them, and the people I did know, well, I didn't feel particularly close to anyone. I remember standing in the kitchen with a drink in my hand, trying to figure out what I was supposed to be doing. You know that awkward feeling? Like you're present, but not really participating? Like you're on the outside looking in? I watched people talk, laugh, interrupt, performance. I saw one guy dominate the conversation in the living room. Loud, charming, funny. Everyone was listening, but I wondered, were they actually connecting or just entertained? And then I noticed something strange. There was one person in the corner of the room, barely saying anything, but they weren't being ignored. People would come up to them, sit with them, talk for a few minutes, and leave with this weirdly peaceful look on their face. Like they just dropped a weight they didn't even know they were carrying. I watched it happen 3 or 4 times, and I realized something that completely rewired how I saw social interaction. People aren't always looking for stimulation. Sometimes they're just dying to feel safe enough to be real. That person wasn't the funniest, smartest, or most charming in the room, but they were the safest. And in that safety, people opened up. That night, I sat next to them. We didn't talk much at first, and when we did, they weren't trying to be clever. They just asked how I was doing, and actually listened. Not in a kind of way. They were present. Their attention didn't shift. Their energy didn't rush. There was no performance. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I didn't have to prove anything. That was the night I understood something. We're so obsessed with being interesting that we forget how powerful it is to be interested, to hold space, to slow down, to stop trying to win the room, and instead let someone else breathe in it. Since that night, I started paying closer attention to how I show up in conversations. Not just the words I use, not just the body language or tone, but the energy I bring, because people don't remember what you say as much as they remember how they felt around you. And when you learn to create that space, where people feel seen, heard, and safe, something changes. They open, they soften, they trust, and that's where real connection begins. After that night, something shifted in how I approached every conversation. I stopped trying to come up with clever things to say. I stopped worrying about being fun enough or having a perfect story lined up. Instead, I tried one simple thing. I focused on the other person, not in a fake way, not as a tactic, but with real curiosity. It felt weird at first, like I was being quiet too long, like I wasn't doing enough. But slowly, something started happening. People relaxed. They started telling me things they usually don't share with strangers. They'd pause and say things like, "I don't know why I'm telling you this," or "I've never said that out loud before." And it wasn't because I was special. It was because I was paying attention. I wasn't rushing to reply. I wasn't filling every silence. I let their words land before I added mine. And that did something. It created a space where people could actually hear themselves think, where they could process out loud, where they didn't feel judged or interrupted or managed. I remember one conversation with a friend I hadn't seen in years. We were catching up at a cafe. She started talking about how she felt stuck in her life, like everything was moving, but she wasn't. Normally, I would have jumped in, offered advice, shared my own story, but this time, I didn't. I asked, "What do you think is really behind that feeling?" And then I waited. She talked for 40 minutes straight, and when she was done, she looked at me and said, "I think that's the first time I've ever really said that out loud." That hit me. It made me realize that most people aren't looking for answers. They're looking for a space to explore their own. And when you give that to them, something shifts. They open up. They trust you more. they feel lighter, and they associate that feeling with your presence. You don't need to be the life of the party. You just need to be the calm in the room. That's the skill. And it's so subtle, most people never even notice it. But once you start using it, really using it, people start coming to you differently. Not for validation, not for entertainment, but because they feel safe. And that kind of connection, it lasts. Here's something no one told me when I started focusing on others instead of myself. It didn't just change how people responded to me, it changed how I saw myself. There's a strange kind of confidence that grows when you stop trying to be impressive. It's not loud, it's not performative. It doesn't seek validation, it just exists. Quiet, rooted, real. I used to think I had to prove my worth in every interaction. Say something clever, be the most helpful, offer insight, make people laugh, and when I didn't do those things, I'd leave feeling invisible. Or worse, not enough. But when I started showing up differently, with presence instead of pressure, something shifted. I realized I don't have to be the center of attention to be remembered. I don't have to impress to have impact. And the more I embraced this quiet approach, the more grounded I became. More calm in rooms where I used to feel anxious. More sure of who I was, even when I wasn't saying much. Because when your value no longer depends on how loudly you perform, you start to notice it was always there. It's funny, the more I listened to others, the more I started hearing myself, the real me. Not the version trying to be liked, but the version that could hold space without needing to fill it. And people noticed. Not because I said something brilliant, but because they felt safe to be themselves around me. There's power in that. A quiet kind of charisma that doesn't scream for attention, but somehow still draws people in. Not everyone will get it. Some people are addicted to noise, yeah, and that's okay. But the ones who are ready for real connection, they'll find you and they'll stay. You know what's funny? When I look back, I used to think I needed to become someone else to be good with people. I thought I had to be louder, smarter, more energetic, more on. But the truth is, the most powerful version of me wasn't louder. It was quieter, more still, more present. That's the version people remembered. The one that didn't try to impress, the one that simply paid attention. We live in a world obsessed with standing out, but sometimes the real magic happens when you stand still, when you stop performing, when you stop needing to be the most interesting person in the room, and instead become the one who sees. Because at the end of the day, we're all carrying something, and most of us are just waiting for someone to notice, not to fix it, not to judge it, just to see it. If you can be that person, even for a few minutes, you'll be remembered longer than the one who stole the spotlight. And here's the best part. You don't need to be anyone else to do that. You just need to be here, fully, quietly, honestly. And if this video helped you see yourself a little more clearly, or helped you understand others a little deeper, don't keep that reflection to yourself. Subscribe. Stay close. There's more where this came from. Let's keep building a way of being that's rooted in presence, not performance. And maybe, if more of us start showing up that way, this world might just start feeling a little more human again.